Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 308. And we are joined today by a very special guest all the way from New York in United States, but originally, I believe, from Trinidad. And I think that this will be our first Caribbean guest in 308 episodes. So that's very, very good. So originally from Trinidad, I believe. Jay Nelson, like I say, currently in New York. How are you doing, Jay?
Fabulous. Awesome.
Okay, it's great to have you with us. And I suppose to begin with, we were just talking a little bit about there before recording about the World Cup, the football World Cup currently on in America. And you said you're kind of been a lifelong, always into football and soccer and things. But maybe to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background? Like you said, you were born, I think you grew up in Trinidad. Now in the States, a little bit maybe about your sporting background, how you got involved in fitness, in strength, in training. I know you own your own gym, Body Image Gym as well. Just kick off wherever you want to, Jay, really.
Okay, so how I got started into strength was so at 11 years old, back in the Caribbean, we write this entrance examination to go into middle school and secondary school, right? And I was from the center of the island. And I did really well on my test, so they sent me all the way to the west. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal since like Trinidad fits in New York like 30 times. But for an 11-year-old country boy going into the city, the West Coast city, it was a big deal for me. So being smaller, skinnier, I mean, I always played soccer, was always athletic, but I didn't have the size to compete with the other boys, right? Because I hit puberty late on in life. So I get to this school, everybody is a bit brilliant, but there was a strange mix of bullies that had a lot of brain, right?
Mm.
So it was trying to find my way and fit in to a particular group in middle school, in high school. So I wasn't the smartest person, so I didn't really fit in with the real smart glasses wearing type. I don't want to sound too bad, but that wasn't me anyway, right? And then I wasn't the big bad dude on the block, so for me it was trying to figure out where I landed. So I tried the soccer thing in school. I was good, but I was like this big, and boys were like this big. That was something. And then track, I was fast, but my age group always put me at a disadvantage for the cutoff.
Mm.
Like, when boys are like 13, 14, the guys who hit puberty faster, they run rings around a 12-year-old. Like it's no comparison. So one day, these boys were arm wrestling. And I was like, I play sports. I got a bigger brother. Like, let's try this. I went in and these dudes crushed me. I'm like, damn. So I was home one day from school, and my dad, who was in the insurance industry, had agents over, and he used to conduct trainings at the house. And for some strange reason, there was a waiter barbell set, right? In the living room. So I'm walking around this thing. I'm like, what do I do with this? One of his agents, tall black guy, walks across. He's like, well, if you take this thing up and you do like this, and he shows me an arm curl, he's like, your arms are gonna get stronger. I was like, okay, cool. All right. I had no idea what I was doing. I did this thing for a while, went back into school, and these guys were arm wrestling a couple months later. I was like, let me see if this thing worked. And I went to the table, and guys who were crushing me could not move my arm. No, I didn't gain a single pound of muscle, at least I didn't think so. I didn't look any different. But the strength was just there. And I was like, whoa. And that one instance lit a fire that would last a lifetime. So
Mm.
that's kind of like my segue into messing around with weights,
Yeah.
you know?
So is that
And
so at that stage, how old would you have been then? Sort of 12, 13,
I'd have
something
been
like that?
I'd have been 13 years old at that time,
Yeah.
yeah.
So at
Yeah.
that stage, you kind of realize that, right, I can train, I can do something, and then I can change, I can increase strength, I can change my, like you say, maybe not your body to look at, but you could, you could get stronger, through doing this exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the goal wasn't aesthetics. I guess, as I got older, I didn't really weight train often. It wasn't something that was a routine at that time, but I messed around with it for a couple of years. I played a lot of soccer. That time I was playing a lot of soccer. And then afterwards, I started training more frequently, and then my body started changing, you
Mm,
know? Um, and when it comes to sports, I always sprinted. I played soccer. I started doing some, you know, s- school competitions at around about 8 or 9. And then I remembered playing for a local team and they made a selection to represent the region, the central part of the region. I got selected to go to that team. I trained on that team. And then I was selected to train with a national 50-man squad. At that point in time, I was 15 years old.
mm,
Trinidad was getting ready to host the under 17 World Cup. I
mm.
think that was in like 19, you know, I got to go back and check the dates, but it had to be like 1997, 1998. It was the under 17 World Cup we were hosting, and I was called up to practice, to try out for that 50-man squad. So that's kind of where, it started coming up for me playing ball.
Mm. Excellent. And when was it that you moved to New York? I mean, have you been in New York for a long time? Is that a fairly recent move? How long have you been around the New York area?
Well, I moved to New York at in 2005.
Okay, so
So
20
I
20 years ago, yeah.
20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I came here originally and I had a trial with Kingsborough College to play soccer. I went and I trained. It was so crazy. The first time I went, it was in the winter.
Mm.
I'm in 90-degree weather, and the coach is like, okay, gears up, you're on the field. Dude, I stepped out that car and I walked back in. I'm like, I can't do this. So, yo, it was so cold. And he said to me, he said, don't sweat it. Next week, we have indoor tryouts. Do
Mm,
the indoor tryouts. So I did well with that. And then I tore my hamstring preseason.
mm,
And I went back home and I just took like 1 or 2 years off. Like I just, that kind of died for me there.
mm,
I had to work, I had to figure out my career, and then after 2 years later, I moved back to the States, and that's where I started getting into this.
mm. And what was your kind of, have you we often ask people on here, have you previously had other kind of jobs or careers, or have you always been in the kind of the fitness industry since you started kind of work?
My training is in building design. So
Building
I
design. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I went to school to become an architect,
Mm,
and halfway through, I got an internship with a construction company. And within that internship, they needed little modifications and drawings. So let's say somebody designed this beautiful house and they needed something shifted to the left or to the right. I would be the little guy in the office who would put it together, take it to the building department, get it approved. And then my brother-in-law got me that internship. He was a manager. And then afterwards, he said, hey, I'm going to start my own company.
mm,
And I just went in with him. We just started building and developing houses and properties. That's what I did.
mm,
So I owned my own construction company back home.
mm,
And when I came to the States, I was like, I'm gonna try to do this thing. And then I worked with a company. I'm like, I'm starting all the way at the bottom. Like I did all that already. I don't need to start all the way at the bottom and go get a bottle of water and bring a ladder. Like I'm not doing that.
Mm.
So my wife, she suggested, she's like, dude, you're always in shape, you're always playing sports, like just go do the personal training thing. So I went and I studied. I got a job, and within like the first 2.5 years, my manager saw me. He said, "Hey," he said, "I'm gonna make you X amount of dollars," which was a lot of money, more money compared to people who went to school for this stuff, right? Who had degrees. He's like, "I'm gonna make you this money." He's like, "Just commit to one club," and I commit to that club, and he did make me that money, and I
Mm.
was like, "Wow, I could actually get paid well doing something I liked." I loved. And that was it. Just kept,
Mm.
moving up.
Mm. And your own gym that you have, your body image fitness, that's I take it that's in New York as well. The
Correct.
and where is that? Is that in which kind of borough of New York is that?
Well, you would call it Nassau, but let's call it Long Island. I'm in Long Island, New York.
Okay,
So I'm about 35 minutes out of New York City. So I'm centrally located
yeah,
um in New York.
yeah. And when did you start that up? When did you decide to, like you say, you committed to this one club. This manager had kind of said, right, I can get you, earning this kind of level, and he did. What was the thinking, or what was the decision behind leaving that, I suppose, secure job, and opening your own facility, and going down your own route?
That's a good question that's gonna take an interesting turn right now.
Okay.
Excellent. That's what we're after.
I realize that. So I'm working at this club, right? And things are going well. Same manager who said he's gonna make me X amount of dollars, things are going fine. The team was awesome. We were killing it. And we had a couple bodybuilders and stuff. That's when I did my first bodybuilding show, right? Because I did some of that thing. And one of the trainers, you know, it seems that he had a problem with me. And ever so often he would, mouth off a little bit. And, I'm like, dude, like, let's not do this. Like, I'm from the islands. I grew up fighting bullies and understanding what that's like. Like, let's not do that, right?
Mm,
And, it became a thing. And then one night we're training clients and I'm working with a young lady. And he comes up and he starts yelling and he's, it's big type A kind of thing. And I had it and I calmed myself down. And when the session was over, he went into the break room and I followed him. I said, "Hey," I said, "this is the last time you're going to speak to me like that. Like, we're not going to do this. Like, we're not going to have this issue on the gym floor, right? We're not doing this." And then he comes up to me like in a threatening manner. And yeah, I headbutted him.
mm.
Right? I give him the famous Zidane headbutt. I headbutted him and broke his nose.
Mm,
And then I was like, okay, let's, I headbutt you. I'm ready to get into the combo. And he just sat on the floor and started cowering because all this time he's yelling at me and he's being aggressive, thinking that I'm scared of him.
mm,
But I just don't want the confrontation and the drama that goes with it.
mm,
But at that point in time, I'm like, oh, we're behind closed doors. I gotta show you, we could settle this up right now.
mm,
Right? You want to put your hands up? Let's put your hands up. And he
mm,
sat on the floor and he was like, well, like this.
mm,
And the manager came up to me and he said, "Jay," I said, "Yeah, you don't need to say anything more than that." I said, "I understand." And I packed my stuff and I left. Now, at that point in time, I was just married because I just moved. It was, a couple years after I moved. My son was 3. I had a wife. I had bills. I was 6 weeks away from my second bodybuilding show, so I didn't need that stress.
mm,
And this job that was making me some good money vanished.
Mm.
So now I'm like, I got all these responsibilities. Like, what am I gonna do? And that's when I said, you know what? This was meant to happen. I always owned my own business. Let me start my own business right now.
Mm.
And that's how I started Body Image. It was out of a need more than the thing I was going to do because I probably would have started a business, but I was so comfortable with the money I was making. Like Body Image probably would have come later on, but at that point in time, I had to figure out something. So I started my company part-time and I went to work for another company because, it's like you start your business, you don't get paid.
Mm.
Months you don't get paid. You know how that goes, right?
Mm.
Yep.
Until you put in, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to put in so much work. And I listen to people who are going to start businesses now. I'm like, you're not going to get paid now. Like,
Mm.
you got to figure out that. And that's how my company started. And eventually, by going back and forth, it grew. And then one day I made a jump. I said, that's it. I'm running my own business now. And that's where I am today, you know?
Excellent. No, that's good. I wasn't expecting that story, but that's good.
Seems like
It's
such a
good.
mild-mannered kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. You are so like you say, this guy must have been just pushing, pushing, pushing.
Yeah.
But like you say, like many sort of bullies, um, if you the second that you kind of stood up to him, he didn't. He kind of cowered down and just wasn't expecting you to stand up to him at all. Yeah,
Yeah, it was just, I just snapped. Literally,
yeah,
just snapped.
yeah.
So.
And plus, you were in bodybuilding prep as well, so you're probably very hungry. You were very, yeah,
But in my defense, right? He was a bodybuilder too. We were all in prep,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But at that point in time, he was using a lot of anabolics.
Mm,
That was kind of no, anabolics don't make everybody crazy, but
mm,
it can make some people crazy based on their physiology. For
yeah,
him, he was like, I'm like, you know.
yeah.
I'm
Okay.
just I'm just thinking of the Hulk and like you won't like me when I'm hangry.
Yeah. So in terms of what you do at Body Image and what you do now in your career, um, is it what is your focus now? Who is your client? Generally, who do you work with, and kind of in what way do you help people now? I mean, are you quite niched in what you do, or is it quite a kind of an open sort of gym? How does it work?
Well, it's a private training facility,
Yep.
personal training, one-on-one. I have a team of trainers. I work with people myself. We started off doing sports performance, and as you get older, your niche changes. And I spoke about that. I spoke on that in another show. She's like, when you're younger, you're 20 years old, you attract 20-year-old athletes or people who are interested in fat loss. I mean, we're all kind of interested in fat loss, but as you get older, you more want to preserve health and muscle, and you're thinking about longevity. You want to look good, but you want to function
Mm,
well, right? And my niche changed a bit. So now we serve primarily people over 40, both both men and women. All right. So we went from just doing the aesthetic thing, then we started specializing in GLP-1 weight loss and other supporting peptide therapies.
mm,
Now from that, we've added on a second part to the practice, a third part to the practice, where we focus on biological age because we're working with people who have built businesses, have built lives, who are successful. They're not only trying to look a certain way, they realize that if they function well, they look good, they could enjoy the life that they are building now and for decades to come. So they don't just want to work out, they want to ensure that they're preserving their health and their mental acuity. So that was just like the next stage to what we were doing. So to
mm,
answer your question, we focus on strength, weight loss, and longevity.
Mm.
It seems to be all encompassing, but there's specifics to each one.
Yeah, and like you say, it's not so the focus is not the aesthetics now. It's people who come to you with different goals. And you mentioned the GLP ones, which I know again probably I think usually with any kind of any trend really, whether it be health, whether it be any kind of trend, we're usually, a year, 2 years, sometimes up to 5 years behind where the US is, in terms of it seems that most stuff starts there and then it comes over to us maybe a year to 2 to 5 years after. So with the GLP ones, obviously they're quite big over here now, but with the model, the healthcare model over here, and I know obviously healthcare in the States is predominantly private. Over here, you can only access it through the NHS if you are like a type 2 diabetic or something like that. You can't just have like a BMI over, I know people who have very, very, very high BMIs, but because they're not diabetic, if they want the GLP-1 treatment, they have to pay for it privately. So how has that changed the your job, I suppose, in the States, having the proliferation of these drugs and stuff now over the last year or so?
Well, when I was first approached to offer GLP-1s to my bring it into my practice, I was a bit hesitant because of all the we lacked research, we lacked strong data, and there's the curve of innovation of diffusion, right? Some people jump on it really quick, the early adopters. Some people wait until everybody's doing the thing, and then some people are all the way down in the back, the laggards are waiting to see, well, what happens. And I had to carefully examine, you know, where we would go with this because I know, just like how AI is coming to disrupt jobs that are repetitive, GLP-1s are gonna change the weight loss industry. They have changed the weight loss industry. And I was like, here's what. So this tool has been shown to reduce lean mass and it could decimate metabolisms going forward if not used properly. And I do like the stance that your government is taking on how it's being delivered. I think we should have stricter standards and protocols when it comes to that. So it's like if my clients are gonna go outside and use this, and there can be a deleterious effect to the metabolisms going forward. How can we serve them? How can I step in and say, hey, okay, we're going to use this, but let's design a protocol where you wouldn't be left with nothing at the end of it,
Mm.
right? So that's what led me to get into the GLP-1 thing. So um when we started, we I dove into the research, as I said before, and now the protocols, we standardize the protocols and we tweak it, of course, but now we're able to preserve the lean tissue loss. We've been able to preserve skeletal muscle mass. We've been able to help our people improve strength while using the GLP-1, which is awesome. And I think that not my protocol, but practitioners like myself, that type of training and that type of education should be standardized. 'Cause I don't think everybody should be on the drug. But I think if you are going to get on the drug, there's a couple boxes you need to check before you take it.
Mm.
There's a
What?
huge amount in
Sorry.
this, isn't there? Because they're here and people are going to use them. So it's like, right. So we need people like kind of like you, because people might get it from the doctor or whatever, and the doctor says, right, do this. We recommend that you lift weights as well and all that, and people are going to go okay, and then not bother. So how like so what you've just said, like people need to understand how to use them. So they're not necessarily for everybody, but people are going to use them anyway. So how do you work with people then? Like if you've standardized it, what would you say to to listeners who are either taking it, thinking about taking it, or they've taken it and lost all the weight, but now they're like, well, I'm just like, I've lost muscle as well and I'm tired all the time and stuff like that. So what's your kind of recommendations for people in those kind of, say, 3 stages? Someone who's about to take it, someone who is taking it but don't know what to do, and someone who's at kind of the end of it, because there's a lot of things that happen with this in medical practices, isn't there? Of people will do something and then at the end it's like, right, you're on, well done, and then they're like, well, what do I do now? So it'd be interesting to hear how you kind of work through those stages.
All right, so that's 3 different people, and
Yep.
each approach requires a bit of nuance. So for the first person who is thinking about taking it, the first thing you want to look at is that person actively strength training? Because if they are not, they need to start strength training prior to using the drug. And we're not talking about a week or 2 before using it. Like the intensity that's required to keep the muscle mass is anywhere from around about 75 to 80% of a 1 rep max. So let's think about 8 to 12 reps. So you're going to be moving weight that's, I would say, somewhat heavy. So if somebody's not training, you need to go through prep phases: mobility, flexibility, joint preparation, joint stabilization, core stabilization, before they can move on to higher intensity weight training. So if you're thinking about taking a drug, you need to get your body to a point where you could move heavy load safely. That's that, right? In terms of nutrition, and this will apply for each scenario, we need to ensure that your protein intake is at 1 gram per pound of target body weight. So let's say somebody's 180 pounds, they want to get a 140 grams per day. Along with the training tells the body to keep skeletal muscle. Eating protein also tells the body to keep skeletal muscle. The nuance with that is when you're taking in that much protein, you need to optimize digestion. Otherwise, you're just going to have expensive poops or you might be constipated, right? So we need to optimize digestion mechanically and chemically, ensuring that our stomach acid levels are sufficient to break down the proteins into amino acids the body could use, right? Again, standardized across the board. Then we look at micronutrient deficiencies because all this talk about protein and fiber. What about all the micros, the minerals, the vitamins, stuff that we are lacking when we eat 6 meals a day? So now we're down to eating 50% less food. We get a whole lot less micronutrients. Supplementing to fill those gaps so that you don't lose health and energy. And that's one of the things that people talk about, right? They tend to lose energy, they feel tired. Like, why am I feeling tired? Well, you were borderline deficient to begin with when you were overeating. No, you're not eating as much. It's like, well, what do you expect? So that's for the person just that. For the person who's on the protocol, right? Those same nutritional requirements need to be met. And for the person who has hit their goal weight, who's on the protocol, you need to taper down the drug at the end. And what we do effectively is we layer in the foundational work while somebody's on the program. Because when the drug stops, the foundational work is still there. What is that? That's the habits that you need. You eat like this, you train like this, you have enough water, you sleep on time, all the things that you would need to maintain sufficient health. The reason why a lot of people ended up here in the first place is because they didn't do those things. So now we have to teach them those things while they're using the drugs. So when they stop using the drugs, those things are still there, right?
Do you have much experience, Jay, with people who have, like I say, because you've probably been involved with this for longer over in the States than we have over here. But from my experience over here, I've not really dealt with anyone who's been on the process for a long time, have maybe hit their goal weight and then, like you say, they're tapering off the drugs at the end and they're coming off. Because I've kind of heard that people expect almost to be on these things for life or something. You know what I mean? I mean, what is the? Have you got experience with people who have gone through the process, got to goal weight, they've safely tapered off the other end, and they've then sustained the weight loss and the habits that you've kind of helped them embed?
One of the standout facts that I highlight on my website is 94% of the people that quit using the drug maintain their weight 6 months after the last shot. So what what are the protocol that I just outlined is the way off, is the way out.
Mm,
Okay. Um, what happens is when somebody loses the weight and too much of the weight comes from skeletal muscle mass, they don't have the metabolic engine anymore. And when I say too much, as a ex-competitor, whenever you go on a diet, whether you use drugs or you do it naturally, you are going to lose some amount of skeletal muscle mass. Because when you're in a caloric deficit, the body's going to start removing tissue. What you do in terms of mechanical tension and the nutrients that you eat tells the body, hey, we need to keep this tissue and get rid of this.
mm,
And if you're going on a GLP-1 drug and you're not thinking about preserving your skeletal muscle mass, you are going to rebound big time.
mm,
So that's where you see the weight coming back, and now you don't have the engine to take care of the calories because muscle acts as glucose disposal sites. Glucose is in the blood, you have enough muscle sucks it up. And that's why your wife might complain, oh, look at my husband, he just cut out bread and he lost 10 pounds. And I've been working my ass in the gym, running, doing all this cardio, and I can't lose a single pound. What's going on? Muscle mass, baby.
mm.
Right? So you need to work as hard as you can and think about saving your muscle mass. And that's going to keep your metabolic engine working well going forward.
So,
Does
Pete, oh, sorry, go on, Pete.
would a GLP-1 drug? So let's say you did it without the drug, and you build the foundation and all of that, and then you lose weight in a controlled way. So you try to maintain as much muscle mass as possible, lifting weights and stuff like that. Um, does the GLP-1 change that if you did it in exactly the same way, but you use the drug alongside it? Does it do you burn more muscle mass as well as like fat, adipose tissue, and all that sort of stuff as well? Does it kind of do you understand what I'm saying? Does it make like would you then, when you stop, you would try to build muscle mass back, or does it do it in the same way? Just I don't know, faster.
Oh, well, let me see if I understand your question. Let me answer it. And if I hit the button, if I hit it right,
Yep.
you let me know. Okay. When you're sending a signal to the body, the GLP-1 signal is so strong, you won't be able to build muscle mass on a
Right.
GLP-1. What you're gonna do is preserve the muscle mass that you have. Okay?
Yep.
So the body is gonna remove the fat mass and as little skeletal muscle mass as possible. And because what you want to avoid is after you come off the drug, trying to rebuild muscle mass, because rebuilding muscle mass might take a caloric surplus.
Mm.
So now you took something that would put you in a deficit and you lost this muscle mass. And now after the drug, you're trying to go back into a surplus with less of a metabolic engine to begin with.
Mm.
And that's like a conundrum that you don't want to end up in. That's
Yeah.
Mm.
that's a bad situation.
So the you I can't remember I think you may have said 90% of people that you've dealt with who've followed your protocols and
Hmm.
then they've weaned off the GLP ones, and 6 months later they maintain the weight loss. That's the people who are doing everything right, if you like, and they're following your system and they're doing things very proactively, and they're strength training and they're eating their protein and they're sleeping and they're getting all these habits in. What is there data yet on, you know, the general population who, because I would imagine, like Pete said, that possibly the majority of people who are taking GLP-1s are not doing your program and all the right things. And then I would presume that at the end, if they do come off of it, there is much more of, like you say, a rebound afterwards. Is that kind of fair to say? I mean, I don't know if there's data out there yet to sort of see that.
There is data to support that.
Yeah.
I did a presentation. I have that data on a slide. I can't quote it exactly, but here's what's gonna happen. Here's one thing I remember. In 2 years, like people who started taking the drug, everybody gets off the drug within 2 years. They stop taking it. And it's usually because of a financial reason, okay? Because it can get expensive. Um, the weight does come back.
Mm.
The weight does come back. You don't do it the right way, the weight is coming back.
Because they
So,
haven't put all of those habits and the lifestyle in place to then
yeah.
sustain. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you didn't get here because you had a deficiency in a GLP-1 in your body, right? You
Mm,
get here because you did all the other dumb stuff, right?
mm,
You didn't put your true caution to the wind when it comes to taking care of your health and your weight.
mm,
So you didn't get here because of GLP-1 deficiency. You got here because your lifestyle doesn't support your health. This is not in alignment.
mm,
So if you don't do that and you take the drug and you come off the drug, you're gonna end up in the same position. You're the same person that you were when you started.
mm. Yeah, because temporary measures create temporary results. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Okay.
this
No,
is why
that's
it's such a touchy subject, I'm going to say, isn't it? Like, because, some people think it's a good thing, some people think it's a bad thing. It's neither of those really. It's like it's a thing and it's here and people are going to use it. But if you use it correctly, like you're saying, Jay, then alongside. I mean, we've had Steve Bush comes to mind, right? So we've had a guest on a couple of times. He's one of James's guys who goes to James's gym. Changed his lifestyle completely. He had a gastric band, didn't he?
or
Is that what he
gastric
had?
sleeve, I think.
Or a
Yeah.
Yeah,
gastric
This
yeah.
was
sleeve?
obviously this was like 6 years ago, wasn't it? So it's
Yeah,
before
but
GLP-1s, but yeah.
but he changed his lifestyle alongside it, and he got the result. And GLP-1 will be the same. You like you say, you change your lifestyle alongside it, you get the result. Um, but I think it's not that complicated, is it? By the sounds of it, because people complicate it and say, "Well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen." And it's like, yeah, but if you consider it before you go on it, it's like any drug, I suppose, isn't it? People just go, "Sounds great, I want that," and it's like, well, yeah, but you need to know what it's going to do to you. It's going to change you like forever. So
Yeah.
let's do it properly. And it's a shame that that's not in place. But I don't like we need more people kind of in your position to be able to say, come to me and I'll help you out. You know.
Well, there are two things. There are two things, right? The first one is, and I see this with women. When a woman comes in here and she sees her friends are using it and they are getting skinny, and she sees everybody is using it. She's on social media, which is like, you know, brainwashing you.
Yeah.
She starts losing patience. She's like, hey, everybody's doing this thing. I'm stuck here, 20, 25 pounds to lose. I don't need to do all this work. I could take this shot and get there, get there fast. 6 or 8 weeks. I'm looking just like my friends. When it's time to have a conversation with her to slow her down and to say, hey, let's just work through. Let's just see what this is gonna look like post intervention. She kind of doesn't want to hear that. Like she's been stuck with 25 pounds for years. And she probably moved the needle 5 or 10 pounds up and down, but it never really changed her body because she never really had a system. Right? So now there's this thing that's guaranteeing that you drop this weight fast. She's already tired and frustrated and tried everything. She just wants to get it done. Right? And I think number two is the the regulation around it is there's none. Like
Mm.
I've seen people get GLP-1s to lose 10 pounds.
Mm,
I'm like, just go take a poop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Go, don't eat for a day, take some fiber, drink some water, go poop.
Mm,
You'll be 10 pounds lighter. Listen, man, I bodybuilded. I dropped like 20 pounds overnight. Yeah, it was water weight,
mm,
but a lot of people walking around, right? At least based in America, you have about 10 pounds of gunk inside you.
mm,
Just do that. You don't need a drug to do that, but
mm.
there's no regulation. That's my
So,
point.
what's the system out there? I mean, you through your facility, can you so people get their GLP-1s from somewhere else, from a medical provider, I presume, and then they come. I mean, do people come to you because they're on GLP-1s or because they're considering it, like Pete said, and they know that you have this program that you work with people who are on it, or is it kind of existing members at your facility are thinking about doing it, and then you take them through this process? I mean, you know what I mean? Do people come to you because they're on GLP-1s and know that you work with people in that situation?
Well, we offer GLP-1s in the clinic. Like I have a licensed medical partner. So
Mm.
when they buy the drug from us, and our medical partner supports them, right?
So it's all done in house for you.
It's
It's yeah,
all, yeah,
all
it's all done
yeah.
in-house. So, and then that's GLP-1s, and we have like about 10 or 12 other peptides that we can offer. So how it works is people come in for personal training, and most of the times people come in for personal training, they come in for weight loss. They want to lose weight. So I'm I'm a metabolic balance practitioner. There are different ways. Somebody doesn't need to be on a GLP-1. I could get you down naturally using different protocols, supplements, repairing your gut, reducing your inflammation. I do all that stuff. I'm trained to do all that stuff. But a GLP-1, they come in asking for it. So they want to train, they want to lose weight, they come in for the GLP-1. And I said, hey, if you are going to work with us on your strength, it's better that we do it in-house because then we could manage you. Now I could say, hey, you work with our medical partners. Now our trainers know the protocol for GLP-1s. Now we need to know what supplements you're gonna use. So now it's in-house. Now, do people use the drug and come in to work with us? Yeah, but it doesn't work out it doesn't quite work out the same because they're doing GLP-1 and then they heard, well, they should strength train, and then they do all the strength training thing.
Yeah, I
Like
hadn't
when
realized that you could, not you personally, but like you say, you have a medical partner in house that kind of, so that sounds really good because then you're sharing, obviously confidentially, but sharing information about the client, about the dose that they're on, about anything medically that you need to know, and it's all it's like a good seamless kind of communication as well, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And then our trainers give us feedback on the programs. Well, the client felt a little tired. Boom, so we could take that feedback to the medical team. Well,
Mm,
we need to adjust this. Take the feedback to the coach because there's a medical team, there's a coach and a trainer. The coach is the person who puts together your habits and make sure that you're taking your supplements and your check-ins. What's your mood like? What's this like? And every week we do this thing. So there's this, again, seamless, all-encompassing program that we have that we look at people. And that's how we're able to deliver such good, longer lasting results
mm.
with the GLP-1 program.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, what we'll do, we've only got maybe 10 minutes left, Jay, but can you talk to us again? I mentioned, the States is year 2 to 5 years ahead. You mentioned that you also have peptides and things there as well that you use as part of is that the medical kind of team that you're partnered with deal with that as well for members. Yeah. What
Yeah,
can you just explain very briefly, just a total high level, just an explanation of what are peptides in the way that we're talking about them and the way that you're using them, and then some of the benefits of using. I know there's lots of different ones that have different purposes and things, but can you just give us a little bit of an idiot's guide? Is that okay?
Okay, so peptides are chains of amino acids, 2 to 50 in length, right? Could vary. Anything longer than that makes it a protein. They are signaling molecules. So think of it as, let's say you're in your kitchen, right? And you want to leave the kitchen and take the light off. A peptide usually is like a light switch. It controls, it gives you one or two outcomes as compared to a steroid hormone like testosterone, it's like pulling the main brake on your house and shutting the lights off to the entire building. So steroids or anabolic, sorry, have a more global effect on the body. Peptides have singular effects, one or two, right?
Mm.
So um, peptides are usually now the technology is changing where you could use them orally, but since they are delicate sequences of amino acids, the stomach acid usually messes them up. So peptides are usually injected, like the GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide. So it goes into the bloodstream, so it remains intact to go do the thing that it's supposed to do. Right? So we understand what a peptide is, how it works, and why, the injections might be more efficient than something that's orally ingested. Um, there are tons, like we're now starting. When I say we're, like the healthcare, the industry are now scratching the surface on peptides. And people on the outside are like, well, this is new, this is crazy. Well, not really. Insulin is a peptide discovered in 1921, right? Glucagon, 1923. GHK-CU, the one that you use for your face and your hair and your skin, 1973. And GLP-1s, I think the research started 1995, 1996. They saw it before, and that's when they started trying to stabilize it to create the half-life, maybe half-life a bit longer,
Mm.
right? So peptides have been around over 100 years. All right. In terms of different peptides that you can use, one of the more popular ones is NAD+, which helps the mitochondria produce more ATP, the energy currency of the cell. You could use this alongside a GLP-1 if somebody's experiencing a bit of a crash. I usually try not to because I want to fix micronutrient deficiencies first before I put a peptide in. Uh, Another popular one is the BPC 157 that they use for joint healing. It's a natural peptide that's found in the stomach that basically stops the acid from eating through the stomach walls. And they use it now to reduce inflammation. In fact, I was looking at a study that showed spinal um, imagery April to September. The person had an L4, L5 herniation. It got worse in September, but the person was using BPC 157 and the pain lessened while the injury got worse. So it's really good for inflammation. Then we have TB 500, which is usually paired with the BPC 157. That kind of tells the body where to put the healing mechanisms to it kind of cell migration. Say, hey, this is where the source of pain is. Let's just move the healing properties to that source.
Because do you inject it, Nick? Because this is I was chatting to somebody who I
Mhm.
was skiing with like a couple of months ago who uses like peptides quite a lot, and he said that do you inject it near the site of the injury? The So
You
say
you
you've got a bad wrist, would you inject it near the wrist to?
Right, you can because when I do my I have a little bit of arthritis in my right knee from all the years of playing soccer. I
Hmm.
put my BPC 157 fold the skin, put it right in the knee, under the skin, subcutaneously, of course, and it works better. But when you pair it with TB 500 kind of sends it to where it's needed the most. So
Yeah,
that's why those two usually come in a stack.
yeah. It's amazing. I know we kind of just opened up a whole new can of worms,
I
haven't we?
know.
But
Question
yeah.
I've got right is again because this is a minefield, but you've got people like Brian Johnson and that doing the thing of like I'm going to take all of them and live forever and all of this, right? And you were talking about it's funny because we had a conversation about longevity the other week, because everyone's talking about longevity now, aren't they? But you said something about biological age, which is because it's great. You can live longer. That's great. But if you're not healthy, why would you want to? You know what I mean? It's health span versus lifespan, isn't it? But biological age is the health span side of it, which is great. So because there's so many peptides with so many different things, it's like, people then start to look at it and go, well, do I need to do a Brian Johnson and take them all? You know what I mean? So it's confusing. Social media is all over them at the minute. They're on podcasts everywhere and people are flogging them and selling, they're all selling them. And it's like, do people need them just for specific things? So someone might be deficient in something from their diet. So they can, if you can get them to do it via diet, that's going to be the most beneficial way, isn't it? But then if for some reason they're deficient because of not absorbing something through the diet or whatever, they might need a peptide to kickstart that or whatever. So is that how you work with it? Like every individual is different.
Yes, and can I know we're running out of time, but can I say something in this Brian Johnson biological aging? So the third part to our offering is epigenetic methylation testing. That's where we determine your biological age, right? I was recently on a training, and the doctor who was, reviewing my score said to me, he mentioned that guy. He said, well, this guy spends like $2 million a year biohacking, and his biological age was like point something. My rate of aging is just below his. And I don't spend a fraction of what he spends, right? And I could snapshot that and I could pose that up next to his. I should probably do that after this. But long story short, right? When I was having myself evaluated, the doctor said to me, he said, what he's seen is when people use too many peptides, it seems as though the body is confused with what to do. And you've seen biological age decrease.
Yeah. I can fully, I'm just
biological increase
about it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the way you said, you're kind of flicking switches on and off. If you've got 20 different things that you're injecting into your body every day and you're flicking switches on and off, you probably,
when you go
to
you might, I don't know if you have them in the States, but the telephone box exchange things and all that, and people open them up and all their wires are there, and you've got the engineers who go, it's that one there. It must be like that.
Yes.
They're like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. So as to answer your question directly, yes, you support what needs supporting. So when you have a biological age report, we try and get our clients produce to test every 6 months, right? Once you get a report, you look at what needs adjusting and you adjust it. You don't need to take the same thing or take this thing for the rest of your life. You're just optimizing as you go along because the needs of your body changes, right? You could have a period where you go through some depression, you go through some anxiety, you work a lot because you're opening a new business, or you rest a lot because you probably sold the business. So, your physiology, you get a new kid, you're married, like everything is always changing. So you support your body at that point in time. And that's it. Bring it back to optimal alignment.
I can liken it to, there's a Frasier episode about this as well. But when I find a pair of shorts, I'll buy like 4 or 5 pairs that I like, right? And I'm like, right, I'll have 5 pairs. There's a pair of trousers, shoes, or like that, all the same. There was a company I used to buy shorts from who stopped making them. And I'm like, oh, I've got to find new ones now because they were the ones that worked for me. And I think it's like that it sounds like that, what you're saying with peptides. Like someone will be on one and they're like, right, I'll just be on that for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, you're on it now. And then the thing that it helps with will get better, or your body will learn how to do it itself. And then you don't need it anymore. And there might be something else because you get older or whatever, or like you say, stress or whatever it is. And I think that just seems to be where these sorts of industries are. People, instead of just saying you need this, but it'll change over time. nobody gets that explained to them. It's just like, oh, you need this and this and this, and you just keep stacking it on. It's like, what's the best exercise? Do this exercise every day and you'll be fine. But there's 100 of them.
And just thinking about benching every day, how that's gonna wreck your shoulder. Every time you go to the gym, you bench or you back squat, right? But the thing with peptides is like GHK-Cu, the copper peptide. Your body stops making them in your 20s, it's high. That's why your skin looks tight and you look good. As you get older, the production goes down. But so what you could do, you could use it to tighten back up your skin and you could cycle it back and forth. A lot of these things you cycle. So if you need an outcome and you get the outcome, you could back off. Same thing I do with supplements. Like, I push and I pulse and I push and I pulse. And when there's a need for it, I take more. When I feel good, I back off a little bit. And what that does, it stops toxicity from building up in the body.
Yeah.
You give your body a break. Your body's like, oh, thank God. This dude stopped pinning me like a pin cushion.
Well, I suppose that's that's just nature, isn't it? Seasons do that. You get winter, summer, all that. You get, most people in this country are deficient on vitamin D anyway because we don't get any sun apart from this week. But but it goes in cycles, doesn't it? So yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I've never really thought of it like that before. But
correct.
Yeah. Jay, that's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, we'll have to speak to you again because this has been really interesting, and I've loved it. The way we've gone through talked about a few different things here, but it's so interesting, and I'm sure like I say, this is episode 308, and some topics there we've talked about today that we've never talked about before in our kind of 300 plus episodes. So yeah, it was really lovely meeting you, and we'll definitely try and speak to you again in the future. If people want to find out more about you and follow what you do, where is the best place for them to go? Where are you most active? Do you want them to go to a website, a social media? Where's best for people to follow you?
So you could find me on Instagram at jnelson0580. That's JAY Nelson. And you could find me at www.bodyimage.health.
Bodyimage.health. Brilliant. Yeah. No, that was fantastic. Really, really great. Interesting, Pete, isn't it?
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, it's something that I don't really pay much attention to because I don't actually use any of that stuff myself. So it's like, it's not on my radar. Yeah. But it's good to know.
But yeah, there's I know lots of people who've been, who are on GLP-1s, have been on, would be considering going on. So hopefully, if you're listening to this and, a friend of yours is currently taking GLP-1s, or considering, send them this episode so they can have a listen, because it certainly gives you lots to think about. Thank you so much, Jay. That was absolutely brilliant. And it's the morning for you over there, isn't it, in New York? So
yeah,
you've got the day ahead.
Correct. That's a lot of work to do today and a lot of matches to catch up on.
The World Cup, indeed.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening. Please like, share, subscribe, and like I say, especially with this episode, if you know someone on a GLP-1 considering it, please forward them this episode. Something to think about. We will be back next week with episode 309. Finally, if you are on Apple Podcasts and that's where you listen to the show, please do go and give us a review if you haven't done so already. And we will see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.